Crypto has just gotten a very bullish start to the week, and everyone's wondering the exact same thing. Is this the end of the bear period, this correction period, or are we destined to go lower after what could be a bull trap? There is still danger ahead for Bitcoin. We are not out of the woods yet. And today we're going to be talking about the signals that I'm looking for to start allocating a significant amount more of my funds into altcoins, opportunities, majors, and all of the like that I believe will be profitable and will turn some massive gains once this market turns full-on bull mode again. If you guys are excited for this one, updating not only what's going to happen with Bitcoin, my strategy for the near-term future, as well as fundamentally strong news from across the industry, then go ahead, smash that like button, and remember each and every comment on this video is entered to win your own hardware wallet. With that said, let's dive in. Now, before I dive in and analyze some of this Bitcoin price action, I did want to say I took the last week to really do a little bit of R&R from this wild and intense bull cycle that has really been in full bloom since last July, June era, where really there hasn't been a day off. This last week, I didn't have a ton more commentary to add to what I had already said about this bearish momentum that we had and what I'm looking forward to for getting us out of this. So I took the time to get some sleep, shave my face, and get ready for another exciting chapter of this bull run. I'll be back now. I've made some pretty significant structural changes to what you're going to be seeing here on the channel. You'll see more and more of that over the coming weeks. All in all, I'm extremely refreshed and excited for what comes next. I appreciate you guys bearing with me during the hiatus. Now, into this price action, because the reality is that what we're seeing here out of Bitcoin is very promising, and quite frankly, I did predict that this would happen. However, what's important to see here is that we actually, with some momentum, break through this 42K resistance, and then that becomes the real big test here, because right now, we're certainly not out of the woods yet, just hovering here around 39K. We're certainly not over these resistance levels, but it was a very promising early day pump that we saw that got us up here to about 41 pretty much. What we need to see is a convincing break of 42, and then we'll probably see some momentum into the high 40s. Now, that would be the ultimate bull trap zone if it reverses there. If we reverse there and we don't make it up above 50 and start closing candles there, then that's been a big old bull trap, and that will most likely lead to downside. However, if we start pushing past those levels, what we'll see is that most likely the momentum here will be focused on Bitcoin and Bitcoin alone. And as we've seen, Bitcoin dominance has been rising. It's been coming back from this sub 40% level. And if it gets back up here to about the 50% range or so, as alts continue to bleed throughout this, then I believe we have a nice cocktail of amazing entries into alts right as the market's confirmed upwards and bullish again. And I do believe that as Bitcoin does its next move, or at least regains its liquidity floor, that alts will once again have a platform to thrive and grow upon. And that is a huge opportunity for a lot of these fundamentally strong projects that have gotten absolutely decimated during this last collapse. Alts got completely rugged super fast. For some context here, in the last bear market, alts lost between 80 and sometimes up to 99% of their value, but a lot of alts within just a matter of days lost 85, 90% of their value from a lot of the prices that we were seeing in February and March. And that is happening across the board to some seriously fundamentally strong projects, which to me means because of this PTSD that we have as an industry, as a retail force of traders or institutional force of traders, everybody knows the bottom can fall out with the altcoin market like it did in 2018, and serious losses can be sustained. And I believe that that PTSD has led to a very rapid cycle of this altcoin bear trend where people just immediately dumped. Instead of holding on, people just sold their positions and waited for smoother sailing. So I think this was like some kind of accelerated bear cycle in a sense. If not, you can just see it as a correction in a larger bull cycle, but it did feel like a rather significant bear trend just occurred, just in a more rapid fashion. And so if I'm right, and if this starts turning bullish again from here, then I believe we'll have some time here as Bitcoin works its way up for the alts to once again become pretty obviously good bets. And we'll start seeing some alts, some of the fundamentally strong ones, take off and do some serious X's, and that'll be the sign that once again, this bull market is on and ready ready to go. Now, historically, this would mean that Bitcoin takes off, then we get some majors taking off, and then we get some L1s, the Polkadots, the Cardanos, the Solanas, the Kusamas, all those great projects. Speaking of which, we're going to be talking about Solana and Kusama a little bit later, as they have performed pretty much exceptionally under all the circumstances, and it's important to realize and understand why that might be the case. Anyway, now, in addition to the news that you're most certainly aware of with El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as national currency, which is a huge step forward, the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender. This was certainly echoed by a lot of Latin American leaders adding laser eyes and sort of hinting at the fact that they may be next to hop on this trend. That's all fantastic news. Again, those are going to be long leads where this takes a while for these things to really take over and start impacting the price. If they are to do so, it's more of a symbol at this point than anything, but we'll see how this impacts the El Salvadorian economy and whether that essentially becomes a destination for crypto holders and traders, as that they're not going to get taxed on their crypto. It's going to be treated like currency. At any rate, what I think of as potentially an even more important indicator is the GBTC activity. Now, I did an episode on this before, but it's important to realize that Grayscale's giant 16,000 Bitcoin unlocking, which is happening in July, might be a very bullish event for Bitcoin, as they have some really interesting dynamics that drive a ton of bullish activity here. So this is the biggest single day unlocking that will flush sellers from the market in July, opening up both volatility and bullish potential. So institutional Bitcoin investors are in the spotlight. As noted by popular Twitter commentator Loomdart and others this week, attention is focused on buyers and sellers of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, as Bitcoin hovers near 40,000. Now, what does this even mean? So essentially, GBTC is one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world. Now, they are going to have what's called an unlock, and these kinds of unlocks are not constantly available. The trust operates with periodic closures, which this year these closures have coincided with its buy-in price trading at a discount to spot price. Negative GBTC premium has formed a major talking point in its own right, as invested funds are locked up for a set period and then released, allowing investors to cash out at certain times depending on when they bought in. A combination of a negative premium to spot and a large unlocking of funds means that July will be particularly interesting for BTC price action. Previously, such an alignment has meant increased volatility, meaning that you can get into GBTC at a discount to spot. So that will pretty much take the spot buyers away from the market and drive them towards GBTC, where they're getting a better deal. July 19th will see the biggest single unlocking day with 16,000 GBTC Bitcoin released, or 627 million. Crypto Twitter OG Loomdart says, you guys realize we're already negating GBTC unlocks. After the bulk of them are over, there's like 0 spot BTC sellers left, right? And here you can see the connection between the premium and the price of Bitcoin. As you can see, there is a tremendous correlation here between the premium on GBTC and the price of Bitcoin. It's undeniable that there is an effect here. And so while all of the other fundamental news is really interesting, I find that Grayscale's activity is something that you absolutely need to understand and keep your eyes on if you want to understand some of the more institutional money flow going on before we're actually able to see an ETF, which again, based on my little whispers from little birdies, I've heard is a high likelihood this particular year. Now, before we move on to some really interesting altcoin news, I wanted to talk about some stuff going on in the NFT space, which, as I've believed the entire time for the last 4 years, is going to follow its own path. NFTs are fundamentally consumer products that should not really be tied to the value of Bitcoin and crypto. And that's why I think they are not only such a perfect on-ramp for normies, but they're a really important counterbalance in our markets where everything rises and falls like an absolute lead balloon when Bitcoin goes down, and it rises with absolute parabolic growth when Bitcoin goes up. Well, there needs to be some part of this market that is less volatile, that has its own gravity. And I believe NFTs are going to be that space. Now, will everything sell for as high as when Bitcoin is booming and prices are all elevated? There'll probably be some price moderation because the people buying NFTs are the people who are crypto rich right now. So they might be feeling a little more frivolous while the market is up. But in general, what we're seeing is NFTs continue to make amazing news and growth. For example, the NVIDIA CEO is saying we're on the cusp of a blockchain and NFT enabled metaverse. This has more or less been my obsession over the last 4 years, preparing the fundamentals for Superfarm as well as getting ready for the video games and other cool parts of the ecosystem. But this is something I am super focused on, as I believe this will radically transform one of the biggest online cultures and really one of the biggest cultures in the world, which is gaming. So keep your eyes on the metaverse. It's one of the biggest changes to our society, I believe, and I think it's going to be the thing that brings in the first billion users to the blockchain. We also have the advent here of physical NFT galleries, which is a new concept here, but I believe that NFTs are making their way into mainstream and more real world use cases, and this is yet another example of that. Whether or not you want to visit an NFT gallery or not, that's up to you, but again, I see this whole NFT space as just seeping in and growing in, first with the art world, where it's starting to reach all kinds of saturation now with physical galleries, and then with other use cases as well. So again, keep your eyes on the NFT space. You just have to. And while people continue to scoff and roll their eyes at astronomically priced NFTs, the reality is that this collectible market for rare digital goods or some of these original NFT projects is starting to absolutely boom, with the CryptoPunks original Alien, Rare Alien, selling here for $11.8 million at Sotheby's. So if there's any more of a validation that while the market in general for crypto seems to be ebbing and flowing, the whole NFT space seems to be separating, with CryptoPunks becoming the equivalent of like a Bitcoin or something in the NFT space. They are this sort of original first version of this, and for that reason, they're getting absolutely astronomical valuations. Now, if you'll cruise over here to OpenSea, what you'll see is that the prices in Ethereum, at least, while they did grow from January here, they've been more or less stabilizing and even popping back up here. And as you can see, the average sales here are oftentimes above 15 Ethereum, and right now 15 Ethereum is about what a Bitcoin costs, like 15.9 Ethereum or something like that. So as you can see, based on holding value against Bitcoin, it's pretty interesting to see how these CryptoPunks have fared. And it'll be really interesting to see as things potentially turn bearish or bullish again, which direction the NFT market will go. But it does feel as though there's a much more real possibility for NFTs completely separating or very strongly separating their market values from the crypto market, as opposed to other projects that are just so tied in to the fluctuations of the market, traded against Ethereum and Bitcoin as pairs. I think it'll be really interesting to see how these collectible ecosystems separate. And that's what I think everyone should be paying attention to, obviously with the two leading collectibles in the industry being right now CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club. Do we have any Bored Apes in the audience? Let me know, drop me a comment below. And finally, I wanted to cover Solana here, which is only down 30%. As you can see, over the last 30 days or so, we got the big drop here in May, but there's been just a higher lows and higher highs ever since, and it's trying to bust again through this resistance that was created here by these bases around 42 bucks. Again, a really bullish chart, and you can see here that these high quality L1s are really defying gravity here and behaving better than these other alts in the ecosystem. And of course, the other one that fits that description to a T is Kusama. I mean, look at this Kusama chart; is absolutely incredibly bullish here, even after this shocking drop, again down about 30% from its highs. Both of these charts are moving in a fantastic direction, and it shows you that the projects with really strong fundamentals are going to perform differently here. And Kusama, of course, has their upcoming parachain auctions this month, which is one of the best tokenomics you could have, just essentially permanently locking, or not permanently, but for years on end, locking up huge amounts of the supply. They're doing this in partnership with Kraken. Really interesting endeavor here. But again, this is just one of the best charts in crypto. And it shows you again that this Polkadot ecosystem, especially these key coins within it, which are DOT and Kusama, as these parachain auctions come around, are going to drive a ton of token velocity. And I believe there will be some seriously bullish days for these ones. So again, make sure you're tracking which coins have performed in certain ways throughout the dips, and go back and backtest Kusama throughout prior dips and see how it really doesn't dip as hard as the rest of the market. And that when these dips do occur, people jump in to buy these lower priced KSMs. Very interesting stuff. So as the market ebbs and flows here, making runs back up to bullish territory, I think it's important to keep in mind that we're not out of the woods yet, and I'm waiting to see some convincing price action. Really above 50K would be the indicator that, hey, this bull season is back on, and let's look for some projects that have some amazingly strong fundamentals that didn't get this boost back with the market returning. Now, if you're feeling really bullish right now, obviously there are a ton of projects that are sitting at 80-90% discounts from their all-time highs. Those projects with strong fundamentals in the bullish scenario, I believe will not only regain their all-time highs, but will probably surpass them by leaps and bounds. So it's important to realize that right now could be these amazing, glorious entries, but if you want to play it a little bit more safe, I'm playing a little safer right now, just preserving capital, because I know that once this market turns on again, there will be so many opportunities. So I'm preserving a little capital, though it is tempting. I was very tempting to put in huge block buys on both Ethereum and Bitcoin, along with some of my other favorite, major altcoins. And really, I'm super tempted by some of these low cap DeFi projects that just haven't gotten their time in the light yet, but I'm holding myself back. I'm waiting until I get a little more confirmation for the market to start aping in to some of those more, I guess, adventurous, exotic new DeFi projects, the ones that I'm really passionate about, many of which I've already mentioned here on this channel, but things that just haven't gotten their pump that they deserve yet. And so I'm excited for those projects. And as soon as we get closer to that 50 range, start closing in the, the low 50s or mid 50s, I personally am going to go crazy with these low cap DeFi projects, getting into projects that I think, haven't gotten their proper time in the light yet, which there are many. Pretty much all the projects that came out in May ended up getting completely dumped on and rejected by the market, even if they are really good projects. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. And as soon as we start getting those confirmations, I'm going to start throwing coins into these exciting projects. But until then, this is exactly how I see this market. And I hope this episode has brought you some value. If it did, go ahead, give me a thumbs up. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. As always, if you want more content like it, make sure you subscribe and put that bell notification on. As always, my name's Elio Trades. You can find me on Twitter at Elio Trades. The link for that is in the description. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.